Hello everyone, thanks for joining my home studio where I share my passion for watercolor paintings. This week we'll be painting from one of my trip to Honduras where I was snorkeling, and they had a beautiful beach, and I thought it would be nice to capture this moment and share it with you guys through a watercolor painting. And this tutorial focus on all levels. I will show you guys how to capture essence of the beach scene and guide you through the process from sketching to all the way out to finish a painting. Before you go, hit the subscribe button so you guys can get weekly video updates from our channel. And let's get started, guys. So when it comes to drawing, I usually keep it really light, and I also try to split my canvas into 1/3. I never try to split my canvas in half because it's kind of like symmetry is boring in painting or drawing. So I also moved my horizon on top of the third part because I want the beach to be have a lot of space in the foreground and the background. And you can see I blocked in the background because the sky is the biggest shape, so the next shape would be the background. Because once I block the background, I'm kind of comparing the background with all of the things in my reference. And there's also a figure in the foreground. I also made him a little bit closer to it. And so once I'm happy with the wash, so I'm going to start with first wash, and it would be the sky, and the sky is sky blue, and I use Cobalt Blue for it. And I'm making sure not to go really vibrant on it, because it is surprising that if you go outside and see on a sunny day, the blue looks a little bit paler than anything else. So I also left the background as it is, and the background looks super dark. So whenever you are taking a picture, your camera as well as your bulb makes it darker because the light is not going through your lens, so it captures everything darker and crisper. But in reality, there's a lot of colors in it. And you can see I didn't block the water, I just put on a light wash, and I'm also trying to blend in the sand with the beach. And this is a really important part while you're painting any kind of beach or any kind of water that connects the sand as well as the water. So because the transition have to be really smooth, and we're going to be layering it. And I'm also trying to add those foot marks where people are walking, and I also want to keep this abstract. I don't want to go and add each and every foot marks in it. So when you paint, don't try to overdo it when you're trying to do it. So try to make it everything simple. Every tutorial I do, I'm giving an advice of making your painting simple because that helped me a lot, and that helped me as an artist to keep on pursuing what I'm doing, and it also gives me confidence to paint every day. And even though it looks paler now, I'm just trying to make the consistency a little bit darker and the transition, because we have to make sure that there's a little bit of depth and slope happening. So the way you do it is using gradients. I fairly admit that I did went a little bit vibrant because you can see the reference. I also made the reference a little bit brighter because I want to see a little bit of details, but even in reality there is a little bit of color in the sand as well. So I want to capture that, but when you capture as it is, it's kind of boring and you're not having any colors in your painting. So I always keep in mind that whenever I paint, I try to add some colors in my painting just to create that vibrancy and freshness in my painting. And you can see the background, it looks super dark. You can see that it's literally look almost dark, but I'm going to have some color variations in my trees, and I'm going to treat this as a one single shape. And whenever you paint and whenever you see subjects like this or the beach or the background, try to paint in one single shape. So that will make your life easier, and thinking everything shapes also makes your painting look fresh. And I'm also adding this coconut trees. In Honduras, there's a lot of coconut trees, and it is really refreshing to be in this beach when I was there. And I'm also making the trees a little bit darker, and as it goes in the background, it's kind of like the gradient happening. So that also creates depth. Now I'm also using my nails to get some of the highlights and for the coconut trees, and you can't see in the reference because I made it smaller, but there's a little bit of highlights here and there. And that's it. The background is almost done, so I'm not going to go and touch it. And I also left some eyelets for the umbrellas, and it's going to act as a really nice foreground element for us, midground element for us. So now I'll start with the beach, and for the background I'm using Cerulean Blue and a little bit of Cobalt Blue, and I'm just going to bring it all the way to the foreground. So this part is the really hardest part when creating beach, and you have to be really careful in doing this blending. And if you use a student watercolor paper or really bad watercolor paper, this doesn't happen, so don't get discouraged. Make sure if you use a really good watercolor paper for this, so the gradient is really smoother and it gives this beautiful transition. And I'm using Saunders Waterford, and in matter of seconds you can see once we added the water and the transition, and it kind of looks like a beach. So now I'm adding the details underneath the umbrella, and I'm going to make this as a single shape as possible, because this is the midground. I'm not worried about that much, and as soon as the way I paint is I try to paint light and shadows. So in any kind of painting you do, and try to paint light and shadows, eventually your painting will come alive. So when I squint my eyes, when I saw the reference, I'm just checking the pattern of it, like what's the light and where's the light and what's a shape and what's a shadow. And you can see as soon as I added the shadow underneath the umbrella, everything came alive. So I'm going to be adding the first figure. She will be sitting on the midground, and this is my the foreground figure. And I do spend more time on the foreground figure than the background figure, because the foreground is the one who takes us into the painting. So I want to make sure that you read it's really darker than any other scene. And in watercolor, layering and having patience is really important. You always start with the light wash as possible. Start with the lightest wash as possible and slowly increase the pigment. Even though the figure I added in the foreground, it looks darker, but eventually, once it dried out, it became a little bit paler. And I went and glazed over it to create the depth, and it starts from darker to lighter as it proceeds to the background. And now I'm also adding some of the shadows on the sand from the umbrellas, and making sure that it reads well. And I also add a little bit of white sharp, like there's a sharp behind the umbrella, just to create a little bit of impact and a little bit of contrast. And you can also see I add the shadows, and in a matter of seconds you can see as soon as we added the light and shadows, things start appearing, and everything looks three-dimensional now. So now in Honduras there's a lot of beaches there, and we also snorkeled here, and they do a lot of trips for snorkeling, and they do parasailing, but we couldn't do parasailing because the weather condition was really bad. And there is another element I also added in my foreground, is the boat. And I also know that when I squint my eyes and when I see the darker spot and the lighter spot and the mid-tones, I'm pretty sure that the boat is darker than the beach. So that's why I was so confident that I can go over the boat. And to get the highlights back, I'll use a little bit of white paint in it. And you can see as soon as we add those figures, there's a foreground figure, there's a midground figure, and there's a background figure. And when you add details in the midground on the background, try to keep it as simple as possible, because when this painting is seen from far, the foreground is the one people usually notice. And that's why I spend a lot of time painting the foreground elements than the background elements or the midground element. And I'm trying to block the boats in one single shape as possible. And I'm trying to add the foreground boat now. So I added the top part of it, and now I'm adding the back part of it. And being said that, so when I add this boat, and this is kind of like my first wash, and I do have to go a little bit darker, but I didn't go darker, because when there are objects which is behind the sun or the light source, the objects is darker. So I'm trying to get as dark as possible, and when I squint my eyes, when I see the painting, it doesn't look darker. But eventually I went and glazed over it without any problem. And I'm also trying to add the reflections, and as soon as we add the reflection, you can see the boat kind of anchors on the water by itself. I'm also adding that reflections for the kid, which is in the midground. And I'm also adding a darker pigment underneath the boat and the water, and it also gives this illusion that it's sitting on the water. So these are my tertiary details, and I wait for this tertiary details till the end. I don't rush to it. And because you have to, whenever you paint or drawing, you start with the big shapes first, the primary shapes, the secondary shapes, and the tertiary shapes. It same also applies in painting as well, especially in watercolors, because the layering makes your painting easier, and you can also plan your painting as well. So I squinted my eyes and I saw that the water in the foreground kind of looked dull, so I did glaze over it with a little bit of purple and a little bit of blue in it. And now I'm adding the shadows for the foreground figure and the midground figure. Now as soon as we add the shadows, you could see we know where the light is coming from. The light is coming behind the figure, so I'm trying to add some the shadows on the footpath as well. And I'm also spraying some splatters here and there just to create a little bit of texture on the foreground and the midground. And there are some areas, when I see my reference, there's some areas that have a little bit of colors in it, so I'm trying to add that, because you can leave it as it is, but vanity prevents it. Sometimes I go crazy and add a lot of details, because it's really fun to add a lot of details when you paint or drawing. So, and I'm also adding this rope which is attached to the boat, and it also helps us to lead us into the painting as well. And I'm adding that. I'm also adding some poles for the umbrellas, and that also gives a little bit of three-dimensional space for it as well. And you can see as soon as I add that the pole in the front part of the umbrella, so the umbrella came in the front. So this step I usually wait till the end. What I'm talking about is the eyelets, and I'm trying to bring back some of the eyelets which I left before I was painting. And you can see I left some eyelets for the boat, which I couldn't cover it because I want to paint it really freely, so I painted the water first. And I'm just bringing some eyelets at the back, and so this step is just to enough is enough. It's up to artist preference. You can bring as much as eyelets you want. And I also want to add this, you can see there's also a little bit of reflections on the water too, and it also coming to the shore, so I want to capture it. I did have a little bit of hard time doing it, but I was telling myself, how can I simplify and capture the essence from that reference? And that was I was exactly trying to do, and I able to get a little bit from it. When you try to get the sparkles, try to use a dry brush with white paint, because it gives us really good texturing on the water, and not to try use water in your brush. And this is how the final painting looks like. I think it rather came out nice, and we did capture the essence from the reference, and I also add a little bit of colors in it because the reference looked a little bit boring and darker, and I tried to able to capture the light and everything. And it did bring back the memory of me being in Andorras doing snorkeling. So now it's your turn, and take my reference or pick your own reference, and let's see what you can come up with. Thanks again for watching this how to paint a beach scene tutorial with me. Please feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section below. If you have any other topics related to watercolors that you like me to cover, write me at watercolorimpressions@gmail.com or leave a comment down below. Before you go, hit the subscribe button so you guys can get weekly video updates from our channel. Share with your fellow artists, friends and family.